Good evening, everyone. Tracy Cromwell here, your integrative nutrition health coach, senior fitness specialist, personal trainer, and integrative nutrition health coach. So it is Tough Love Tuesday tonight, and I'm happy to be here. And tonight I'm talking about something very important. Basically, I'm talking about environmental toxins and your health. So, as an integrative nutrition health coach, I focus on all aspects of someone's life. So, again, I speak about this too. There's joy, not only with health, is there food, there's fitness. Finances, relationships, creativity, career, education, all those things apply to our lives. And so, with that, looking beyond just what we're consuming, I try and look outside of those of just food, and we look at behavior, and then also tonight's topic, we're looking at environmental toxins. So, with that, um, we can think about toxins in many ways, but let's clarify what I mean by environmental toxins. So that can mean that um, nature nature sends off it, you know pollutants into the air, like oh my goodness, pollen, all of that. That's an environmental effect on us. But what it really means is that it refers to everything in our surrounding, um, outside of our body. So something that's happening outside of our body. And we can talk about environmental issues referring to nature, but that's just one aspect to consider. So, when we're talking about environmental toxins, and so for me, I call myself the canary in the coal mine. Actually, a little congested right now. I can sniff them out, I can smell them. When I'm in amongst an environmental toxin, sometimes I can literally taste it in my mouth. It can give me a headache, all those types of things. So, the aspect is that one really important thing for us to remember and to consider is the impact that these external environmental toxins or external life outside of our body, how is that impacting our body, right? So, where are these toxins found? Um, so, you'll be surprised to learn that environmental toxins are widespread, more widespread than pollution and pesticides. And I didn't really realize that, um, but it makes a lot of sense. We unwittingly, I can say that word, unwittingly, come into contact with them and these dangerous chemicals through our cosmetics, or our food additives, for just an example. So, um, constant exposure to these environmental toxins um, cause more and more people to suffer from chronic illness. Okay, it's chronic diseases, and these illnesses leaves people feeling in a continuous state of exhaustion, mental fogginess, anxiety, physical pain, and many other symptoms. So, like I said, I have been um, in environments where I've been around new carpet, for example, and within about an hour, I start feeling like I had the flu or I had a cold, and my sinuses started burning, my eyes burnt. I just needed to go home. I went home that day and I just felt so sick. I thought I was getting some kind of a flu. And I woke up the next day. I felt fine. I went back into that environment the next day, and it only took like an hour this time, from being there all day to just an hour in that environment, to feel awful and sick. And so that's new carpet, for example, can basically um, off gas into the environment, and where our bodies are exposed to it, we breathe it in. Other people in the environment, they could smell it, but it didn't bother them, right? And but we had the air tested, and sure enough, we had formaldehyde in that environment, and so I couldn't I couldn't be in there. I couldn't do it. So for me, an environmental toxin like that makes me terribly sick, awfully sick. And so, um, anyway, that exhaustion I had, that fogginess. I also got very anxious, especially the second day when I realized it was the environment. I just had to get out. I wanted to run, had high anxiety. Okay. And so that's something to think about. Um, so how are these toxins affecting our health, impacting our health? Well, I gave an example of a personal experience that I had, and that's just one of of many I could tell you about. But these toxins are impacting us, and we are taught when we're kids to avoid toxins, toxic chemicals, but what we need to talk about is really how these environmental toxins are impacting our body. So first, I'm going to talk about the endocrine system. So that's a collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth and development, tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, and mood, among other things. And so one class of toxins can be described, excuse me, as what's called endocrine disruptors. So, according to the Environmental Working Group, there is no end to the tricks that the endocrine disruptors can play on our bodies. So, they state that some dangers of endocrine disruptors include increasing and decreasing the production of certain hormones. So, as humans, we really need our hormones to be in balance. Each hormone has a specific purpose. So, these endocrine disruptors basically play havoc on them. So, they can imitate other hormones. They can turn one hormone into another. They interfere with hormone signaling. Signaling cells, they can signal cells to die prematurely. They compete for vital nutrients. So, nutrients that need to go to other areas, these endocrine disruptors basically compete with that. They are binding to essential hormones, and then also they accumulate in our organs they accumulate in the organs that produce hormones. So they are playing havoc in our bodies. So the result of the hormone disruption, again, I mentioned a little bit ago, is we can have chronic diseases. So, and they're learning more and more about these diseases that are caused by these endocrine disruptors. So some have been linked to it is ADHD, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, early puberty, reproductive disorders, and childhood and adult cancers. So all these things, these endocrine disruptors are not mild. They are, if we're chronically in contact with them, our bodies don't know how to handle them. And we weren't really meant to have to handle them, right? So if we know that hormones are responsible for all major aspects of our health, from that sleep, from the metabolisms, it is so crucial to limit our exposure to these endocrine disrupting toxins. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the common toxins and how we can reduce our exposure to them. So the first toxin, number one, is BPA. So BPA is an industrial chemical that has been used to make certain plastics and resins since the 1960s. So, for example, polycarbonate plastics contain BPA and are often used in the containers that store canned foods and beverages, such as water bottles, is an example. So BPA is a synthetic hormone that imitates estrogen in the body, and it interferes with reproduction. So when we think about buying those water bottles, the plastic water bottles, really quickly at the store, we're also have a strong likelihood of ingesting another endocrine disruptor, that BPA, which can cause issues with reproduction. Okay. So the Environmental Working Group has reported that BPA has been linked to everything from breast and other cancers to our reproductive, excuse me, to other reproductive problems. The other thing is obesity, early puberty, and heart disease. And according to the government tests, 93% of Americans have BPA in their bodies. So I probably have BPA in my body, and you probably have BPA in yours. According to the Center of Disease Control, people are commonly exposed to low levels of BPA when they consume food or water that has been stored in containers made with the chemical. So it's really important to be mindful and aware of this so you can make a good choice for your health when you're out buying things. So that brings me to the next topic, is how to avoid them. Okay, how to avoid BPA exposure, and it's really important. So it can be hard because, it's prevalent in the environment. Here are the tips. Look for BPA-free label on foods and packaging. So that's, canned foods, that's the plastics, water bottles, all those types of things. Make sure it says BPA free. Avoid plastics marked with a PC. P is in penny, C is in cat. PC for polycarbonate, or a recycling label of 7, number 7. Okay. Buy and store foods in stainless steel or glass, and use fresh, frozen, or dried products. Avoid microwaving. This is a big one. Avoid microwaving foods in plastic containers because that emits the heat, and that can help that BPA leach into your food. And don't wash plastic containers in the dishwasher, again, because that can leach that out into the environment, and not to use harsh detergents on them. So one thing I've done is I've replaced, as much as I can, I've replaced all my containers to glass, and then they have a BPA-free lid, plastic lid, like the locking kind. Okay. And also choose wooden toys. I know, choose wooden toys instead of plastic. But when we think about it, here we are giving our child a toy that's plastic, and it's probably got BPA in it. And so as an early, growing child, you're getting exposed to this. So the next one is phthalates. They are a group of chemicals used to make plastics more flexible and harder to break. So they're commonly found in plastic food containers, children's toys, and makeup products. Okay. So it's important that we pay attention to that. So our bodies have a signaling system to program cells to die as part of normal health. And according to the Environmental Working Group, studies have shown that chemicals called phthalates can trigger what's known as death-inducing signaling, making them die earlier than they should. Okay, so we don't want to do that, right? Also, they've linked them to hormone changes, low sperm count, less mobile sperm, congenital disabilities in the male reproductive system, obesity, diabetes, and thyroid irregularities. So, kind of seeing a trend, in these two different chemicals. So avoid them. Again, start by avoiding plastic food containers, children's toys, plastic wrap made from PVC, which has the recycling label number 3. So recycling label number 3. It's also important to read cosmetics and personal care product labels carefully. So I'm always a proponent for picking food and making sure you read your labels. It's really important to do that with other things too. Makeup, anything we're putting on our skin, lotions, shampoos. Here's a good one. Avoid products that simply list added fragrance. Okay, so that catch-all term sometimes means hidden phthalates. Okay, and you can see there's a website you can go to, Environmental Working Group. It's www.ewg.org skin deep / and that can get you some information. Excuse me, on that. All right, toxin number 3, heavy metals. So, they trace amounts of heavy metals exist in our environment and naturally exist in our bodies, but increased exposure to them can pose some health challenges for sure. Lead and mercury are the most frequent causes of heavy metal poisoning. So, there was always a big push. There's been big pushes in the past to get rid of lead pipes, right? And any exposure to mercury, lead as well. Lead can cause neurological, gastrointestinal, kidney, and bone marrow toxicity, okay, and neurodevelopmental defects. So that's bad. We need to get lead out of our environment. Mercury poisoning can be marked with headaches, low back pain, weakness, fatigue, tremors, and hallucinations. And pregnant women are the most risk for this and the toxic effects of mercury, since the metal is known to concentrate in the fetal brain and can interfere with brain development. So again, mercury and lead, we want to keep as far away from ourselves as possible. Sources of lead include paint and gasoline, while mercury sources include dental and medical equipment, interesting enough, fertilizers, pesticides, amalgam fillings, that's the silver ones, and seafood. So, it's important for us to make sure we're managing our exposure to that mercury, okay? It's kind of a bummer because I love salmon and I love the big fish. But, for example, salmon, because it's higher on the food chain, it's more apt to have mercury in it. And tuna as well, more apt to have mercury in it. So anyway, important to note. Okay, toxin number 4 is glycol ethers. I'm not going to pretend I know how to pronounce all these things, but they're commonly used in our household cleaning products, cosmetics, and paints. So I always wonder why would that be anything that have to do with paint or cleaning products? Why would that be in my cosmetics? I just don't know. Anyway, the problem with this toxin is they can damage fertility. Again, we've heard of several toxins that mess up with our fertility and damage our ability to be fertile. So here's another one, right? Congenital disabilities and worsen allergies and asthma. So I'm pretty sensitive to cleaning products. Again, I'm the canary in the coal mine. If it's in the air, I usually smell it and I usually feel awful. So to avoid this toxin is look for more natural cleaning alternatives such as white vinegar. Avoid products with ingredients such, I know I was going to have to say this word again. All right, I can do this. Such as number 2, so 2-butadiethanol. I think I did it. Otherwise, EGBE and methoxydiglycol. I gotta laugh at myself. I don't pronounce these words all the time. It's like a whole other language. But D is in dog, E is in Edward, G is in go, M is in Max, and E again. All right. We want to watch out for those ingredients. So very important. Another toxin, number 5, is radon. Okay, radon is an odorless and tasteless radioactive gas that is produced from the decay of uranium, which exists in rocks and soil, and it can be found in homes, particularly in basements, okay, and other areas in contact with the ground. So just because it's in the ground, right? But you won't know whether it's in your home unless you have it tested. So it's worth testing for. So next is smoking radon is the second most frequent cause of lung cancer. So, to reduce radon exposure, seal the floors and the walls. Excuse me, increase underfloor ventilation and overall ventilation. Close the basement off from the rest of the house. Have the water tested through a drinking water testing laboratory. And radon can be removed through treatment technology. So that's really good, such as aeration or granular activated carbon. So you can do something about it. So it's worth getting it tested for. So next one, fire retardants. Number 6 is fire retardants. There are more than 75 types of these. And their initial is B as in boy, F as in Frank, R. They're used commercially from natural fiber to household furniture to plastics. So they don't stick to the materials that they're put on. So they filter into our environment. So that leaves, there have been numerous studies that have reported high levels of fire retardants in breast milk. So I think we need to be wise to the fact that when we're in an environment that has these things, we breathe it in. It comes in through our skin, all of these things, it's going to go into our cells, right? And become part of us. So that's really important for us to remember. So again, according to the Environmental Working Group, these incredibly persistent chemicals known as polybrominated, I knew I was going to do this again, diphenyl. Not my expertise. Let's just go with the initials of PBDE. So they have since been found to contaminate the bodies of people and wildlife around the globe, and even polar bears. Okay, so they're in our air. We've created them, and now they're a part of us. They can imitate and disrupt thyroid hormones in our bodies. Okay, here's another hormone disruptor, right? And we need a functioning thyroid to be healthy. So, again, common sources of this: paint, textiles, paper, furniture, mattresses, electronics, office equipment, and carpet padding. So these little buggers will float out into the air. So ways you can reduce your BFR exposure and these flame retardants. Purchase furniture and mattresses made from organic materials. So I'm going to do a little plug for Avocado Mattress. That is all organic. They have no retardants like that. There's no off-gassing. And I didn't even think I was going to say that, but I'm very pleased with ours. And me being so sensitive, I had no worries, and I didn't need to let it off gas before I slept on it. Get rid of products that include foam made before 2005. So foam before 2005, out, get it out. Invest in a HEPA sealed vacuum cleaner, which traps those toxins, traps toxins in when you use it. Avoid using a broom or just because it just stirs up dust and accumulates toxin in the air. So another way of cleaning is some kind of damp cloth or anything like that on the floor. Try not to use a broom. Limit the amount of meat you consume. So poultry and red meat can contain high levels of this BFRs. Now, I want to know why that this is in my food. Why is it even in there? So that's another soapbox for me to get on. But why would my red meat and my poultry contain high levels of fire retardants? And I didn't get a chance to look into that. Anyway, so important to know. All right, toxin number 7. Organophosphates. So that is a neurotoxin compound produced initially for chemical warfare during World War II. Okay, so these chemicals are the main components, get this, herbicide, pesticides, and insecticides. because they target the nervous system of the insects. And despite being classified as a societal health and environmental concern, agriculture use as a pesticide on your fruits and vegetables is still permitted. Organophosphates are also used in mosquito abatement in public areas. So again, I can sniff it out. If a landscaper is using anything like this around me, I get so sick. On road trips, traveling through areas of, where they're growing strawberries or berries, whatever it might be, agriculture, driving through there, I can taste these chemicals. I smell them and I get so sick. And I always wonder, why are they on our food? And it's another soapbox for me to get on. But I remember being on one long road trip. We stopped and picked up some fresh berries. We had them in the back seat, and I was in the back seat of the car, and I started getting horribly sick. And I couldn't figure it out at first. And I had to lay down in the back seat, and I just tasted the chemicals in my mouth, and they burned my sinuses. I was miserable, and it didn't occur to me it was coming from these freshly purchased strawberries, fresh from the farmer. So anyway, organophosphates. Check it out. If you're using any kind of pesticide or whatever, see if you can get that stuff out of your lawn, off of your food. So these have been linked to adverse effects on brain development, behavior, and fertility. Again, that's another fertility that we've run across. Okay. So to avoiding them is hard. Your best bet is to buy organic produce if possible. The Environmental Working Group publishes a shopper's guide. It's called Shopper's Guide to Pesticides in Produce, which you can, help you find the fruits and veggies that have the fewest pesticides residue. So you can go to the www.ewg.org/food news/. Okay. And sometimes it changes on the year. Have you heard the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15? So you can do that to see if you can avoid it. All right. Toxin number 8. I know there's a lot. This is the final one. Promise. Okay. The final toxin is particle pollution. So particle pollution can range from it's dust, mold, and fungus particles to chemical compounds from fuel emissions. All right. So the number one source of air pollution in many cities is automobile emissions. However, this is it. If you're a landscaper, you're in the hot seat. Landscaping industry accounts for up to 10% of air pollution in the United States. And it's the gas leaf blower has been identified as one of the worst offenders and deposits about 30% of its raw gasoline back in the air. So again, another thing, landscapers come around the neighborhood, they're blowing all over the place, and it gets in here and it smells and it makes me nauseous. This happens to my mom. They go by her place and they just ruin the environment with these horrible things. So try and get, if you have a leaf blower, try and get a battery operated one. And hopefully someday they will not be using those anymore. Countless studies have been done on, the effects of these pollutants, particle pollution in the air on our health. So common effects include wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath, and lung tissue swelling, which contributes to heart and lung disease, asthma attacks, and lung cancer. So another good thing would be to go to an allergist. And I just finished doing that again. And because I do feel so awful with all these environmental toxins and stuff like that. And they're helping me get some relief from that. But go to an allergist and take that step to find out if the dust is bothering you, We have mold here in the Pacific Northwest, but mold's pretty much everywhere. And there are ways to help you if you do suffer from that. So it is worth going to the allergist, getting all those skin pricks and stuff done so that you know how your body is really responding. And then you can make a plan of action. So back to ways to avoid particle pollutants. So they're surrounding us all the time. So it's really hard to remove them. So swap the gas-powered lawnmowers, leaf blowers, and weed whackers for electrical. Again, environmental pollution of vehicles. If you can take public transportation, do that. If you can, ride your bike. So checking fuel burning furnaces, your hot water tanks, heaters, gas ranges in your home annually. Make sure that exhaust systems are adequate so that they're venting appropriately. And then prevent mold from growing in your home, by monitoring humidity levels, especially in your basements and bathrooms, and addressing water stained areas. So you can get, even just on Amazon, these really great air quality meters that you can just put in your home. And one of these things really helped me with my mom's place was her air quality seemed kind of, it just had this weird feeling around it. And so I bought this, and she likes to burn a little bit of water on the stove to create humidity. Well, what I found was her stove is electric, and then the water was from the faucet. And so she had toxic levels of that in her home. And so we were able to get rid of that and monitor the quality of the air. And these little monitors, they'll do, all various things, CO2, I think particles, all this, like 6 different things, and humidity. So it's great. And they didn't cost very much, but you can install those in your home to see if you have anything that's bothering you. Also, it's worth, you can also find little mold petri test kits that you can put a petri dish around various areas of your home. You can even put them in your, if you have an HVAC system with forced air, you can test it. And then if something's there, and then you can remedy it, right? So those are a couple ways you can help out your environment, and also getting those filtered, HEPA filter type fans that will clean the air out for you. So lastly, this bottom line is that environmental toxins are down. They're just dangerous to us human beings, and ongoing research findings report their ability to feed cancers, interfere with glucose and cholesterol metabolism, and induce insulin resistance. So again, they're messing with our hormones, right? So environmental toxins have also been identified as a culprit for obesity through multiple mechanisms, including inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial injury. Mitochondria is that's a power cell, the power little battery of our cells, and we have to have really good mitochondrial function. So these can harm our mitochondria. They can alter thyroid metabolism, and also impair central appetite regulation. So it just puts like all this stuff against us, right? So it's crucial, that your level of risk when it comes to these. So, and that's again why I wanted to do this broadcast. So it's very important. So, all right. Best ways you can protect your health from environmental toxins is to take the following steps and precautions. So maximize your phytonutrient intake, all right, by eating whole, real foods, especially like cruciferous veggies like broccoli, bok choy, kale, Brussels sprouts, that kind of stuff. Foods high in antioxidants like dark green leafy veggies, berries, as well as garlic and onions. They can help your body detoxify. Of course, if you have a sensitivity or you're allergic to any of those, don't eat that one, okay? But see how many real good whole foods you can get into your diet. Avoid plastic at all costs. This one is really pretty tricky because we're so dependent on it. But see what you can do there. Stainless steel water bottles and glass containers for storing food. Instead of buying water in the plastic bottles, install a filter at home. And then detox your home with natural, simple things, products. So try making your own cleaning products, or there's a lot of really good manufacturers out there now. There's one called True Earth, TRUEARTH, I think it is, True Earth. Well, there I go again, talking about another product I didn't intend to, but True Earth, check them out. I hope that's right, but I started using their laundry detergent. It has nothing in it, and they're actually little sheets. So the environmental impact, I get a ton of laundry detergent in a cardboard box, and no big plastic container anymore. So check those out. Here's one really good for you. Exercise. You want to sweat or hit a sauna if you can. The more you sweat, the more toxins you can remove from your body. So another proponent of why you want to work out. If you don't like sweating, I say get over it and sweat, okay? Take high quality supplements. We definitely do. You want your zinc, vitamin C, B complex. Of course, check with your doctor, do all that smart stuff. If you're allergic to any of the stuff, you don't want to take it. And then for reference, definitely you can check out, just Google, environmental toxins, precisionnutrition.com, all about environmental toxins. You can Google that. Precision Nutrition is another certification I hold. They have great information. ScienceDirect.com has a lot of great information as well. So check it out. Do some research, make a little bit of investment to make sure your home's in good shape, and see if you can get yourself to where you have an environment that isn't as that environment that you're not aware of, that you might be getting exposed to something like that. So if you are suffering from some chronic illness, or you just don't feel right, something might be wrong, find an integrative doctor, or find a doctor that will support you to find those things, figure those things out. Again, I highly recommend visiting an allergist as well. Find out about your food sensitivities. That might mean you need to meet with a naturopath or somebody like that, integrative doctor. Get your home tested, see how your body's responding to all of this. So again, environmental toxins in your health is really important, because it does affect your hormones. It does affect the way you feel. It can make you tired, feel like you have the flu all the time. And I speak because that's exactly what happens to me when I have stuff in the air that my body just can't tolerate. And so it's another thing too, is when we think of it that way, we can think more globally of how maybe what products we're using, or maybe products we're putting on our skin or in our hair, might be affecting others around us. Is it highly fragrant? Is it full of chemicals? Because that can affect a room, right? So with that, that's my Tough Love Tuesday. So Tough Love is do some investigating, take the time to do it, figure it out. And it's amazing how much better you feel when you don't have those things bombarding you all the time. So, all right, everyone, Tough Love Tuesday's over tonight. Have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye. Bye.